We are live. Hey, guys.
Welcome to Talking in Stations, a podcast about EVE Online. I am Matterall here with the Talking in Stations group. Let's start by saying good morning and hello to Artemis Albosa.
Howdy, howdy.
Baleful Dysnomia.
Good work. Hey, how's it going?
Elise Randolph.
Hey, how's it going?
Caleb.
Hey, guys.
Our engineer, McLeod.
Hey, everybody.
And our two guests. We have Headliner here from Pandemic Legion.
Hello.
And Missioner Extraordinaire Hateless.
Hello.
All right. We expect Fonsui to come in a little bit later to help ask questions about missions, which is going to be the majority of the focus of the show. We'll go through missions at a semi-advanced level to see if you guys are interested in stuff you may be missing out on. I'm looking forward to that. We haven't done that for about 2 years. I think we did a missions show, and it ended up being essentially basic entry level. We realized it was way too much information for one show, so we thought about maybe doing a series on missions. But we want to refresh everybody's memory that there's a lot of worthwhile stuff going on. Okay, and with that, we're going to enter into the game news first. So that it's not just me talking, somebody want to help read this stuff? All right, Elise, thanks for volunteering.
Well, I think it's probably Baleful's probably better to do the Caldari Union Day stuff.
Yes, of course.
All right.
Oh,
so,
that's definitely excellent.
in game news, the first point of mention is Caldari Union Day until September 7th. So if you don't know, just a brief history of not a history, but the Caldari Union the Caldari state is run by a group of mega corporations, and each of the CEOs of the corporations sit on a chief executive panel, and that runs the state. So that is the union that's being celebrated in Caldari Union Day. But you have some new skins, and you have some login bonuses to that. I could go into detail of the Caldari mega corporations if you want to, but
no, that's okay. But that's really interesting, and I'm glad that you took it because I didn't know that about the Caldari Union, what that actually meant.
Yeah, it's the union of the mega corporations. Every citizen of the state, when they're born, they are assigned a corporation. Like, you are born into a corporation. It's like a corporate dystopian hell.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is that's such a weird term for a conglomerate, right? A union. It's just
it's the union of the various mega corporations that make up the Caldari state.
It's weird.
And the thematically, there's a Proving Grounds event that actually goes with it as well. That's I think it's going on right now. You can take a Cormorant, Corax, Raptor, Crow, Hookbill, and Griffin Navy issue, which I expect no one to ever take actually, in the 2v2 format. So that's going on right now. They did a similar thing for
the slices, the Amar Foundation Day.
Yeah, for the Amar Foundation Day, they did a slicer event. So very similar type of theme.
It's very ironic that Caldari Union Day is happening at a time when the Caldari state is actually getting annihilated by the Triglavians. One of the Caldari parade systems is a Triglavian minor victory. So, out of all the four empires, the Caldari state is the only one that's really experiencing heavy losses to the Triglavians. So a lot of people are saying this, in character-wise, as military propaganda at a time of getting your ass kicked.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so there's some parades to check out in different systems, and there's some events. There's NPC events. I think there's some prizes. Do you get those prizes when you log in, or do you?
Yeah, you get the Caldari beret and the Caldari shirt and some skill points and a couple skins.
Yeah, and I think they have some skins on sale that go with this as well.
Yeah, there's skins to buy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's the Caldari Union event. Next on the list is EVE Online in a browser. This is a research and development initiative, just like the 64-bit client or Ether Wars, if you remember that from a year back or a couple years back. This is EVE Online essentially evolving the technology that brings the games to people. So this new idea, actually it's more than an idea, it's something they're putting some research into, is to have new players in specific locations that have good internet and a modern browser be able to play EVE Online through their browser immediately. This would allow people to get exposed to it quicker and see if they like it. And then if they decide to play it, it's assumed they'll go down the funnel of becoming an actual EVE Online player, which means they would download the game and then subscribe. So this is a limited experiment that they're doing at this stage. You guys have any thoughts on it?
Only that someone brought to my mind that, or to my attention, that because you can actually play EVE Online with a very, very small imprint when it comes to download, that argument is a little bit moot. So it must be for something else.
My guess on this regards kind of like essentially a vision that that Hilma's had for a long time in terms of combining all of EVE's sort of products into one sort of ecosystem that you can essentially hop to all, various different products without basically, closing down EVE, the EVE client, starting up, say, the Valkyrie client, or that kind of thing, and creating a more synergistic sort of feel or synergistic like framework for people to sort of experience that in is probably the kind of direction that he wants to go, and being able to experience that like anywhere. Anywhere that you have a modern browser is probably like an extremely advantageous thing that he feels is it would be very beneficial and very valuable for CCP in general. So I think that steps towards that. I just don't know how much of a step.
Deal, right?
Can I just say for a second? It's pretty funny. When I started EVE, we had a browser in EVE, and now we're going to have EVE in a browser. Like,
it's flipping.
It is
the
funny
script,
how that
right?
works.
Yeah.
The whole Dust thing was a failure because of the exclusivity, or not a failure.
Bring back the jukebox.
Yeah.
Well, but this is pretty much the opposite, right? Now Hilma is focused on getting EVE on all platforms, all types of clients, regardless of what kind of screen you're on. Even your smart TV, you're going to be able to play EVE Online.
I love your cat, Hateless.
Thank you. I can't not pet her.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't pet her, to be honest.
Yeah. It's funny. You're petting your cat, and I'm feeling it like on my neck, like I'm being petted. Yeah. All right. So another thing that, yeah, just like me. So another thing that came out this week, and that is an update for pricing for Omega and skill extractors. I forgot you could buy them with actual cash. This is specific to the pound sterling, and that starts October 5th. It's a little bit of a price increase, it looks like. They did this for the ruble, right? Oh, did I say it wrong again? The Russian.
Yeah, you said it right.
I think it's ruble, yeah.
That's correct.
Awesome. They did that a while ago for the Russian ruble, so they're also bringing the pound sterling up to where everything else is. So October 5th, you'll pay a little bit more for EVE Online. Okay, this is the big one. This week, they introduced quantum cores, adding consequences to actions. And so, in a nutshell, this means that all structures in New Eden will need to have a core that costs some money inside of it that will always drop if it is destroyed, which means that every structure will have some value in it that will drop. So let's go through these characteristics, and then we'll talk about the rollout, and then we'll have some discussion on what's involved with these things and what some of the strategies are. First of all, let's go through some of the characteristics here. Each structure will require its own specific core variant, which means small structures will require an inexpensive, smaller core. Bigger structures will require much bigger cores, which will cost a lot more. You need to buy these specific cores from NPCs. There's no way to build them yourself. There's no blueprints. The only way to get them is to destroy them and take them from someone, or to buy your own from specific corporations. Now, each corporation, NPC corporation, has multiple stations, so there won't be one choke point or one system where people can get ganked as they go to the market to buy these. So that won't be a problem. And on the flip
there's
side,
high sec and low sec systems for that.
Yeah, they're
Hold
all
on. Do you buy them with loyalty points, or is it with ISK?
with this.
Just with
It's-
this.
Okay.
Yeah, so
There
there's
were
no.
its values listed in the update,
Yeah,
not
that's,
the
okay.
update, the announcement.
we'll post that in the chat now, and we'll put it in the show notes so you guys can go straight from this program to read this yourself. So also, you can sell these cores. So let's say you destroy one or come across one, or you find it, then you can sell it to another player, of course, but you can also sell it to an NPC corp that will buy it from you at full price. So there is always, having a core means you can always cash it in. It's like a casino chip. You install the core, and this is interesting. I think there's some discussion around this. Install the core after the structure becomes dockable, which I believe is 24-hour, after its 24-hour anchoring phase. That's when you can install the core. And again, it is 100% loot drop. Now, I have to mention the rollout next because it'll mean something for the final notes here. But seeding is starting basically now, September 8th. So you will be able to start buying these right away. And you are required to put them into new structures beginning in 1 month. So October 13th, you must have a core for that structure to work right. And for all the structures that are in the planted or anchored and working right now, or actually up until October 13th, you have until January 12th. So that's 4 months from now. Now, at that final date, the final phase, when I think it's going to be, the final phase is December, the December update, at that point, the cores will be required in order to have basic services. So your fitting, your tethering, your repairing, none of that will work if you don't have a core installed. And this is, I think, where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm trying to figure out, I think it's a little bit confusing. So after October, if you don't have a core, do your services not work, or does that not kick in until December?
That doesn't kick in until.
Let's have a discussion about that now.
So
Let's go, Elise.
Oh, I was going to say, so I believe the way I read it, right? So if you have a Citadel e-drop anywhere between now and the 12th of October, before the deadline, you won't need a core in for full service until the 12th of January. But when you drop a structure after October, or on October 13th or after, then you're going to have to put the core in to get any sort of functionality out of it. Like, it physically won't come online without the core. It stays in that like weird limbo state.
and just for people to know, am I right in thinking this? It is like in that state without a core, it is vulnerable to being killed like right there and then in one go.
Yeah, it goes through. You can go through all of the HP that way.
I thought it just meant you can't repair ships with the repair service. It doesn't actually repair the Citadel itself until you put the core in.
No,
So
that's the
when you
grandfathered ones, right? The grandfathered ones will not necessarily require a core. It will just
It'll
not
require a core
have
after
those.
January. But
No, it won't. It just won't have those features, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, what's the point of a Citadel without those features? Well, I guess there's some, but
So without the core in it, it'll, after the 12th of January, it'll exist in a low power state, right? So it's the same where you can't do anything with it. But the way the Citadel mechanics work is you drop a Citadel, there's this like little speed where you have to anchor it, and then there's a 24-hour cycle. Right now, after the 24-hour cycle, there's a 15-minute window where it repairs. And then when it repairs, it's like full service. You can plop everything in. So what people do is, in like wars and stuff like that, they'll just take a bunch of these structures and throw them out into space put some fuel in, and then after that one thing where they put anchor all these structures, they don't have to look at them ever again. They'll come online, they'll be fully functional, they'll be like hard to or annoying to kill. The idea is you'll then have to come back after you jettison all these structures and physically put this little quantum core into it, which is actually fairly expensive as well. It kind of matches the build cost of these citadels, especially for the smaller ones.
For the compared to the cost of each of the citadels, and like you said, what an Astra house is like, what, 600 million or something like that?
Yeah, it's 600 million for an Astra, 700 for an Athenor, and 800 for a Raytaru.
Yeah, Raytarus were the cheap one before that you just plop down for whatever.
Is that essentially doubling their costs? What do they go for?
Yeah.
Yep. I looked at them. They're kind of expensive.
And they didn't think of some of the people who had keep stars in the C2 wormholes that a freighter couldn't get in at first, but I think they're going to fix that because they realized.
I believe it has already been fixed on CC.
All right.
Yeah, it has. There's been people who've posted screenshots, obviously, sort of confirming that. So the core volumes have been changed. You can basically put like the largest cores in an Orca now. So
yeah, so they shrunk the size of it so it could travel through or fit into a ship that could travel through these wormholes to get to a C1, C2, C3, and that allows you to bring it into the system and allows you to put it into an existing structure. Here's a weird thing though. Considering what wormholes were supposed to be, is it conducive to having a keep star? Does that make any sense at all? Like even
well, I think what wormholes were supposed to be isn't what wormholes were, and I don't see a point in trying to force what wormholes were supposed to be so far after the wormhole release, right? People obviously do live in them, and they didn't expect that, and people have put a lot of work into setting. Like it takes a lot of work.
But they're adjusting height. They're adjusting nullsec, right? They're saying like, hey, this nullsec is great. Everybody has a big mining truck, and they can make a bunch of money doing it. But we got to adjust it because it's not quite right for the balance of the game. Wormholes have been adjusted somewhat now just to reduce their income, but it's almost like they are letting some things happen in there that were not that they were never meant to be, but they don't make sense. Like they really should be a camp. This should be the forest. This should be where you go to camp. It's not where you go and build yourself like a McMansion.
I think one of the beauties of Eve is that you can build a mansion in the forest if you want to.
Exactly.
It takes a lot more work, right?
That's a good point.
Exactly. The one of the sort of four core principles that people really love about EVE Online is, its sandbox nature. And if you, as a developer, start pushing things onto Rails, then you get like a lot less sort of creativity in your player base and a lot less sort of like spontaneous kind of interesting things that occur purely because you're putting everything on Rails.
I also think CCV probably, the wormholes are a bit of a mystery box to them. Like they know stuff goes in, they know stuff comes out, but I don't think they fully appreciate what happens inside the wormholes. We saw this a lot when Exuki was on the CSM. We had like wormhole pain point like released it seemed like every patch there's something to do with wormholes involved. And I like to think that they're just like, wait, this actually happens in there? Oh shit, we have to fix this.
Oh yeah, it definitely. They were shocked to hear that presentation.
That's still one of my favorite pictures from the CSM summit is like everyone just sitting on the floor as Exuki tells them how wormholes are broken.
They've been broken for how long?
Since they came out.
What do you think, Artemis?
I'm somewhat on board with the argument that it's the forest and whatnot, but having lived in wormholes and having in order to deploy a keep star, you have to build a freighter inside the wormhole, and I agree, it's a whole big mess. Like you
have to build like an Abyssal in the wormhole, and then you have to build like a freighter. Right.
I would like to point out, though, last I saw on CC, the mass of these things was small enough to fit into an Orca. But to my knowledge, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, an Orca doesn't fit into a C1. So the C1 keep stars are going to go away. But C2, C3, etc. will stay.
How small they make this thing now? Doesn't it fit into a smaller than an Orca ship, like a blockade runner or a deep space transport?
I'd imagine if it fit into a deep space transport, there's 62K M3.
Are they down to 62
Yeah.
now? Last I saw was 95.
Oh,
Well, no, I haven't seen the size of the cores, but
Oh, I gotcha.
No, they were bigger than 62,000 M3.
if we're
interesting.
At
we're
first,
looking at
they
the
were
size of
250,000, but I guess that you said they knocked it down to 95.
if they're 95, that still means that something big has to carry it.
An Orca, right? An Orca.
Yeah, you can cargo expand an Orca to fit it.
Okay.
So
I
an
would
Orca
like to
can
mention
get
that, like, the thing I'm most excited about this is less that you have to come back and touch the thing again, so structure spam and null-sec warfares is less of a big deal.
I think
I'm more
this is-
excited about the payoff that you get when you destroy spam structures now. Like,
So I do think this is going to affect a lot of the smaller groups that might have a fair amount of structures for their size and force a lot of downsizing on that end. It's going to affect that, and it's going to make sure that people have to go back to the structures, like you said, in warfare, structure spam warfare.
It's, I don't know, this whole thing is weird to me, right? They're like, the first time in Eve, like when Citadels come out, they're like, you got to put these Citadels everywhere. They're the new hot thing. Like, stuff in them is safe. It's cool. Put these Citadels everywhere. And now they're like, by the way, everything can drop randomly if you don't fuel it for 6 days. By the way, we're doubling the price retroactively on you. By the way, you have to only buy this from NPC stations, right? You can't even make these things.
At least you don't understand. They put them everywhere.
I understand exactly.
they-
They said to put them everywhere.
But the problem is the CCP has said that they have some clear intentions with it, right? And pretty much everything they've said, and also in the thread, is not how it's going to actually turn out. Everyone in Eve has told them that their assumptions are wrong, and they still insist on doing this.
Yeah, there
So-
is
so
some,
one of the things
frustrating
is-
things.
So,
hold
one
on,
of the
let-
things, one of the guiding
Okay.
kind of things that I think is really important is to really truly understand, like, you know, what CCP wants to get out of this. Like, because the initial article starts off not sort of stating their intention, but just saying, this is happening, these are the mechanics, this is the particulars. And then right at the end, they kind of say sort of like, you know, what their aim for this is.
Yeah.
I'll quickly,
Yeah, this is a
I'll quickly
conflict-
chuck that up because
it's a
understanding
conflict
what they
driver.
want, because understanding what they want out of this is very important in terms of like trying to break down whether like the mechanics that they're sort of that they putting out for this like meets those.
It's conflict driver is what this is. That's how it originated. That's what its origin is. It's not necessarily to stop spam. They're trying to stop some behavior. They mentioned that, you know, people dropping a bunch of Fortizars they don't care about. They're cheap anyway. They can replace them over and over and over again. And so to destroy those, there's really no incentive. So this is the incentive to destroy those in case somebody's putting you through the labor of destroying them.
Like,
And
But
the
where?
second thing, hold on, let me finish this point. I'm going to go to headliner. The other thing it's for, I think, is to give people incentive to take these things on. And it's an ante for people who put down a structure. So they are redefining what a structure means to a corporation. And I think they've given people a pass in one way not to have a corporation. Not to have a structure, because you won't get war decked if you don't have a structure. And I think this is part of that as well. If you put down a structure, it means you're a serious player. You got to ante up. There's got to be something that somebody can take from you. Headliner, what's the take from your perspective?
Well, I think when these structures were introduced at various stages, right, they were too cheap to begin with. And in sort of
Hateless.
classic CCP style,
Keyboard.
that's been allowed to sort of sit. The problems got worse as more and more have been built and put in, and then they've started putting in little bits and pieces which are supposed to try and start reducing the proliferation of all of those structures, like springing up everywhere. So first we had them going into abandoned state, which meant you could start purging vast sort of swaths of them, which had just been sitting around and doing nothing for a while. And then obviously over time, the amount of abandoned structures will dry up. So the next phase is to, you know, make them more expensive to use going forward, and then have a retrospective cost on them. Now, I think personally they should have just been made more expensive to build in the first place. And that they should, but you'd be like materially more expensive. This is one way of doing that, but it's a pretty weak way of doing it, to be honest. I'm pretty agnostic about them doing it because on the one hand, there is a cost implication to it, but it still doesn't address the underlying issue that these structures are laughably cheap. When you consider what you get out of having a keep star, you can park your entire coalition in it for 160 billion ISK, and it'll cost someone potentially 4 or 5 times that to kill it. Adding an extra however much it is for the keep star one, it's a drop in the ocean.
30 bill. Yeah, exactly.
Does PL want to go like hunting at all now that you have structures?
How do you mean?
Like, is this an incentive for Pandemic Legion on their off time to go spearfishing for cores? Killing structures here and there.
Wow, I mean, we just killed the best part of 1,000 structures or whatever. So it's a shame that we didn't scoop a bunch of cores there. But we don't really have any downtime at the moment because there's a war on. But it'll be interesting to see. The most interesting thing about this is that the longer this war goes on, the more, I guess, the people we're fighting and the people that we're fighting with will have to start thinking about the cost implications of doing that, because there may be some shift in the sort of way structures are spread out across the space that we're fighting in, and the longer it goes on, the more potentially more expensive it could become. And that's the only really interesting factor of all of this for me. Other than that, we'll put cores in the keep stars we've got back home on the other important structures, and we may take a few down. I think everyone will do that.
I think that, I don't think it's going to push too much conflict, because for me, timers are a pain in the ass, and 500 million isn't worth me giving a shit about an Astro house that's not affecting me. I think the groups that already kill structures and do war deck groups is still going to make a lot more money than they do currently off of farming people who can't fight back. But I don't think there's going to be new war deck heavy groups popping up over it.
I think exactly the opposite, right?
Yeah. It's now worth the cost of a war deck to kill a structure. Previously, with the salvage, you would get
of your time, though. I don't know. Timers are boring, especially unless I can get a good fight out of it.
An undefended structure would take an hour and a half max to kill. You're gonna get 500 mil.
Come back
after you
2
subtract
times
the cost
after
of a
you.
war.
You have to come back 2 times after you attack it the first time. And what time is it going to be at? It's going to be at a terrible time zone for you. You have to check, right? You have to.
I can go to one system in HiSec. That's a 0.5 in domain, and there's probably 65 citadels. And of those 65 citadels, I'm guessing, and I'll go back and check, but I'm guessing at least 50 of them are in corps that are under 30 to 50 people that don't really PvP. So I can go with a bunch of alts and just take some Leshaks, just war deck everyone in the one system, and just stay in that one system and not move. And I'll just go through and take my 5 Leshaks that remote rep. They're going to need more than 10 people to kill my 5 Leshaks, which they can't do. And then I'm just going to grind through all of their shit and take it. And I'll get a huge payday for it. But the thing is, these small groups, they're going to then have to join a medium group because they're going to get bullied into it. And then the medium groups are going to have to join a larger group. So it's kind of, it's shrinking the pool, right, for a lot of these smaller groups that were promised or were given the opportunity to have their own little industry areas. So it's super weird to me that I get what they want to do, right? But it very much seems like the main idea, their main purpose of these cores is to remove ISK from the game. And then they had this afterthought that oh, well, we could also say this is a content driver too. So it's a twofer, right? But it really does seem like you're just going to shaft the little guy and the medium guy. I think Dunk Dinkle made a blog post about it, and he explained it really well.
The little guy and the medium guy. If you're a smaller alliance and you have a Fortizar and 15 other structures elsewhere, it's going to be a lot more of your income, a lot more of your money than.
And there's now a huge target on your back, so you have to get bigger. You absolutely have to get bigger. Otherwise, you have to either take down your structure, and then use someone else's, which is expensive or can be expensive, or you have to join a bigger group that you don't necessarily want to, right? It's just super weird that they're doing it this way for me. And the fact that it's all NPC is super strange too. Like, that's the most uneven thing I've ever seen. Like, oh, by the way, everything's seated in the NPC market with buy and sell orders. That's the only way to do it.
A lot of the War Deck Corps generally pass over anybody who gives a decent defense because they go for all the easier targets. But
yeah, so doesn't this encourage these smaller groups to kind of rise up and try and defend their stuff to some level?
No, it doesn't. It makes them want to join a medium group or just stop playing, right? Because if I'm a 20-man industrial group, right, I can probably on the weekends get 10 people on. What am I going to do to 5 Leshaks? Like, what do I do in high sec to 5 remote repping Leshaks?
I mean, you can nuke them out with Belgorns and they shut down and die.
So industrialists
need a couple Belgorns to do that.
And the Belgorns just die. Like, this is like such an inane argument. No offense.
All I can tell you, at least as a member of a mercenary corporation, is that your industrial arm can utilize the wealth they've amassed in high sec and high.
Exactly.
Help.
So this is really good for Noir and like 3 other high sec mercenary groups. This is amazingly good for them, right? Because they finally have a purpose besides like killing Pocos.
Hey, Pocos are also very valuable sources of income.
I want to know the in-game.
Coming from a Care Bear, like. I really think it'll encourage people to stand by their structures. Like, they put more into it, they'll be more willing to defend it, won't they?
Completely untrue.
Sorry, go for a headline.
It couldn't be further from the truth. You could say that about when people have their space invaded, right? The majority of the times they just roll over because it's easier to let someone purge everything that you've got and then rebuild it than break your entire player group trying to do it. Like, do the defense.
Well,
this will be no different.
I would say that, like, paying a mercenary group to defend it is, in a kind of sense, standing up to make sure, just standing up to defend your stuff, kind of thing. Just in a different sort of form, in a more kind of, more capitalist sort of nature, right? I mean, you may have your group of 10 sort of appear on grid or sort of be involved in the fight alongside the mercenaries who you hire, but like in that kind of sense it is smaller groups standing up and not just basically lying down to get rolled over.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
I did want to ask though, like the propensity for people to sell like the cores that they get from blowing up structures. Do you kind of feel like if you have space with NPC structures to basically dock in, live in, that kind of thing, do you think there's a commonality between that and being kind of essentially sort of not holding onto those cores but selling them off for profit? Because I see a lot of conversation about people talking about the cause, from a nullsec perspective, and saying, oh, we wouldn't, go and sell these to NPC buy orders. We'll keep them because we'll want to deploy structures at some point, and having a stockpile is worthwhile.
Yeah. So
do you feel like just real quickly headline, but do you feel like if you're in high sec or in low sec where you have NPC structures to live out of, do you feel like it's, that kind of feeling of holding on to them is much less, so you're more likely to go and sort of sell them?
Depends on how often your group uses structures, right? Like, I think a lot of groups that don't need new structures very often will sell them. Yeah.
Because this could be seen as more of a way to clear up like large amounts of structures in high sec and low sec than in null sec. Potentially.
Question for headliner, you were saying?
I was kind of wondering how you guys felt about that, like in general.
It'll be for null set groups. It'll be no different to like salvaging structures and stuff. Like this is the structures we've been killing recently, right? We've amassed a large amount of salvage, which isn't going to be sold really. We'll just take it and use it for other stuff that we need, like salvage and all the other kind of stuff you get from structures when you explode them. I don't think it'll be any different with the cores. It would be just like throw it in the hangar and pull it back out when it's required.
I feel like I'd hang on to just like a handful and then sell everything over that. If I can just hold on to a couple just in case I need an RP structure here or there. And then...
Can I ask a
essentially
question?
structure fitting, right?
Yeah, basically.
Caleb?
Go for it, Caleb.
I would just like to ask, what is it with all this hatred towards mom and pop shops and private home owners? Why is it that you have to be able to field 50 dudes or more to actually be allowed to have a porta potty? I really don't understand this aggression and hatred from people. I don't know if it's the paper tiger thing or it's some null thing that I'm not allowed to have a medium or large structure for 5 of my friends in high sec.
Are you for
I don't
real, dude?
understand this. No,
Well,
I
okay,
seriously don't
Caleb,
understand it because it's
human nature to pick on the little guy. It's been happening for
that's
tens
fine.
of thousands of years. Why should EVE
It's
Online be any different?
Because
the
it's
difference
about
is,
housing.
Caleb,
It's about playing a game in a more casual style. I think that should be valid. I don't understand why we should hate on these people that want to do this. Of course, it shouldn't be massively profitable. I think it should be horribly not profitable, but allow them to have their little house and play, I don't know, what they do in small houses and small groups like that. But
I mean,
apparently they don't
Well,
make
the
money.
thing is-
Wait a minute. They make millions and billions. Okay.
So the difference is, in terms of, like, if I'm going to make a like an analogy on this, is the difference is, you know, whether you live on a farm with a shotgun versus whether if you live in a house and, you know, like a house in the suburbs, you know, you're less likely to, like, I mean, maybe sort of to the American audience, this might be a little bit of a bad kind of analogy, but like, you're less likely to have a gun to sort of defend your house, and you're more likely to sort of call on the, you know, the local kind of police, to sort of, you know, to help keep order or help defend, you know, your house from like a burglar or something like that. You know,
Right.
it's this sort of analogy, right?
Right.
You know, you're not there defending it yourself. If you're a mom and pop shop, like, you basically leverage the ISK that you make out of it to pay for, you know, people to defend it.
So I think, real quick, I think the idea for this whole thing is to restore some sort of conflict driver in EVE, right? Because that's what a lot of people in the 50 to 200 size group have been asking for. Historically, we've had R64 moons, which created a passive income source, but they were great fight generators. Whoever took it got, you know, a good amount of money for holding it, and so it kind of incentivized people to fight over it. I think this is similar to what they're trying to do with these quantum cores, but I think they just threw a dart and just missed the mark and hit some guy on the head with it. I don't think this does that at all. I think this just punishes smaller groups and forces them into go to medium-sized groups, which I don't think is a healthy thing.
This breaks down to, it's very simple, right? It reeks of a lack of understanding about what exactly they're trying to change or develop, or, you know, for the next phase of updates or whatever they want to do, right? They designed Upwell structures. They weren't designed very well because they're offensive. Like, well, I say offensively, the weapons systems on them are too weak to really do anything. They're way too cheap, and they're pretty easy to kill, right? And they're now trying to make them more expensive and potentially more vulnerable in some circumstances, which is fine. But it just smacks of a lack of understanding about what exactly it's you know. Is
Do you think they'll make them
structures? It's like
make them stronger as a reaction? Like maybe there's something coming where they make this.
Difference.
I think that is a
They
terrible idea to make them stronger. Like,
you should make them deadlier for sure, but that should scale with the size of the structure. But like, I just wonder how many people at CCP live out of these structures. They play the game. How many people put them down? How many people fit them? How many people go out and reinforce them? How many people defend them? It's like, do you remember when you used to have like a 4-hour window every week to reinforce them in, so you could effectively like. And I said at the time, when they had the void bombs as well as the nukes, and you could only reinforce them with 2 doctrines, both of which were Minmatar and shit. Like, I said at the time, I think on this show all those years ago, I wonder how many people in CCP have gone out and reinforced a Fortizar or like 2 Fortizars or 3 or 4 Fortizars in a row, at CCP, would you like to come and hit some Fortizars in Providence with me and see how ridiculous it is as you've set them up right now?
Well, they can play now, so that's an open
Crickets.
invitation to hang out with Headliner, make up for those crickets, hang out with him, and destroy some stuff.
Yeah, come and see how it
like.
works, and then use that as a gauge for sort of informing the changes that you're trying to make.
Right. Okay. We also heard from comments that we really need a high sec guy in here. Okay. We will probably break off and do breakout session on this with high sec people during the week, since we can get more time in there. But we're going to wrap this one up now. It's clearly still a volatile topic. We'll come back to it later on as it gets implemented. Again, you don't really have to put anything, you don't have to worry about this until January if you already have a structure up. If you're going to put new structures up after October, you're going to need to worry about it right away.
Real quick, I would like to mention that Hateless is a high sec guy, but he doesn't just like there were a bunch of null sec people and we have differing opinions. There are different high sec people and they will have differing opinions.
I mean, I have
discount
experience
Hateless'
fighting
opinion.
high sec deckers.
I'm also slightly high sec since I was actually part of the first rollout of structures in high sec.
I think people living in high sec industrialist, small, I think there's a connotation of the small guy in high sec that has a little building, his little porta potty, as you called it. Okay.
So the thing about the people that PvP in high sec, I'm just going to say this: they go for the dead fish in the barrel. They want no fun. They just want the ISK. If you put up any fight or any resistance, they will not bother you at all.
A lot of times they just drop the war deck. Like recently, we've been decked by Jita Holding, and they came after one of our structures, and we showed up on the armor timer. Like they had 15-person Lashak Nestor fleet. We showed up with 20-person Typhoon fleet, and they just they ran before we even hit the grid. Like they didn't even try that fight. And they should have probably tried the fight.
It's a joke.
If you show up with anything,
100% a joke.
And a lot of them, they just assume people aren't going to hit them. Like a year or so ago in a different alliance, Held On decked us, and we just kind of made it the point of, we didn't live where they lived, but not Held On. Wherefore decked us first. Held On decked us after we started kicking Wherefore's butt. But it's just kind of funny to see. They don't generally react well if you put up a decent fight. They tend to look for the weakest targets possible.
The fish in the barrel. That's all they care about.
If you put up a fight,
all right, no, we gotta go.
Just real quick,
last point.
Real quick. I'm just saying that from all of this, this sounds like, especially for high sec, that this just makes a lot of sense when it comes to increasing the amount of activity that mercenaries in high sec have. This sounds like only good things for mercenaries in high sec.
Okay.
Mercenaries and anti-pirates.
We'll leave that there. We're going to go to player news now and talk about some of the battles that happened this week. The battle in G Magic, I believe that's Paragon Soul. And the YTAC 2 Keepstar went down, and that wraps up Fountain. And then a little bit more, we'll check on Esoteria if there's anything going on in there, and some Aquarius work. So let's start with the battle in G Magic. Are you familiar with what happened there, Headliner? That was mostly test, so it probably didn't involve you, but are you familiar at all?
It happened while I was asleep, but from chatting to the guys afterwards, basically, there was sort of an incident on the gate. Goons took a run at them, and I guess the coming through the gate was not particularly favourable terms for them to start the engagement, and Supers versus Dreads. Everyone's been itching to see what happens, like when you dump a bunch of Dreads with the new improved Tech 2 ammunition, short range ammunition, onto Supers with the reduced EHP, previously reduced fax effectiveness. Everyone's been itching to see what's happened there. I just think the regional gate impaired them there, and that the result kind of speaks for itself. That's all I can offer.
Well,
And what was the result for those that aren't familiar?
The result was that the Imperium Dreads died and the Legacy Seepers were victorious, and some guy had a dreadful vermin fit that he lost as well. Like, I think they were pretty they were pretty smug about like how the guy threw down with it. But I mean, he could have taken 5 minutes to think about whether his fit was total garbage or not.
Whoa. But I do like that the satirical dreadful fit on a dread.
Oh, it was awful, dude. He had like a plate, a local rep.
To find that.
Like, not enough mag stabs.
Okay, well, the net result of the battle was 420 billion ISK destroyed.
Nice.
Test actually showed, and 75% of the destruction, I guess, in ISK terms was done by Test, who was actually losing this fight initially until they dropped super capitals and really said, we're going all in. And when they pushed all those chips onto the table, at that point, I think Brave was locking down the gate to TCAG, which is on the other side of GMAC. So GMAC is in Paragon Sol, and TCAG is the next system over, but it's all the way over in a different region, period basis. So that's a regional gate. It's a huge jump, which means there's only one way through, and that is to use the gate, which means it gives a center point to actually lock it up, which is what I think Brave and other people did on the TCAG side. So they kind of prevented the supers from being able, the Imperium supers, which were aligned to the gate, to be able to join the fight. And maybe they thought twice about it because Test dropped the hammer, as they call it, when a lot of Titans come out. And what is the significance of this sort of a fight, though? I think it shows something about, it's like a strength check. We talked about that with Billy during the week. What do you guys think of that?
I think like this engagement kind of sums up what's been going on down there. Really, it's been sort of a lot of the times like standing off either side of the regional, be it down there Paragon Sol period basis or Quirius Catch. And there's been a lot of shuffling backwards and forwards between those two regional gaps, and standing off, and some posturing on either side. Sometimes people go through either way, come back. It's been quite a bit of fighting on the catch side in previous weeks as well, as stuff has been sort of poked periodically by the Imperium. I guess for the Imperium side, they packaged it up as like we'll take a run at you, we don't care, like we've got more dreads, this is what will happen to you if you try and go the other way. It's interesting, like, I mean, the dynamics of all of this will change fairly soon, I guess, as people sort of see what happens now that Fountain's all wrapped up. But I mean, it looks like they just wanted to take a shot and see what, roll the dice and see what came out. And this is the result, right?
Were you surprised at all by the scale of the counterattack by Test? Was that impressive, or was that no?
I mean, we know they've been building an armor fleet for home defense purposes for a long time now, like, over a year and a half. And it's probably pretty sizable now. And I think you'll see, like, it will get used as these kind of sort of Imperium counter attacks come across their border, because if they're doing that, it's less likely that they'll be offensive. Legacy will be offensive in the other direction if they're having to like look over their shoulder and defend. I don't know what Billy said about this because I missed that as well, but I can imagine that he said something.
He didn't say much. He did say this. He admitted that it was something that was a scary moment for them. Like they could have actually been wounded pretty good there if they'd committed and lost, say 10 Titans. And I thought, really, so little? Don't you guys have hundreds? And it's like, no, 10 Titans will swing morale in a certain way. So it was a risk for them. And he said also one of the things he teaches his fleet commanders is make a decision right away. The speed of the decision is incredibly important. And so the imposing strength and the speed of that decision really weighs in the mind of the other FC that has to now decide, wow, do I jump into all that or not? Especially since it was late US time. And if that had gone later, it would have crept into like downtime and maybe even the Chinese time zone. And, then you have a lot of reinforcements on the legacy side in the form of AOM and fraternity. So that would have been, if that had started to tangle up, they would have had to have waited till downtime to get out of that mess. If it escalated.
I think it was a pretty shrewd move by the Imperium, I think, right? So they've been spending the last 2 weeks trying to whittle down, at least on that front, through narrative and through just their actions. They've been trying to whittle down Test and the legacy front entirely. And so they're like, okay, we'll take one big punch. If it lands, then as Villy said, like that whole front might just collapse, right? People like the idea of losing 10 Titans you can replace. But the next time there's an op like that, if you know that your guy lost some 10 Titans, maybe you don't want to put in all those numbers. So maybe your super fleet goes from 300 to 200 and then from 200 to 170 the next time. And then the Imperium, it just swaggers the other way, right? Their dread fleet goes from 200. Oh, we killed 10 Titans last time for just a couple dreads? Screw it, let's do it. So that now that fleet's 400, right? So it's a very shrewd move. They've been trying to whittle down and poke Test for the longest time, right? They've been saying, the Imperium has been saying, oh, Test is the weak link here, blah, blah, blah. And so it was a very big move, right? And to your point, EVE players are mistake machines, right? So if someone bubbles the gate wrong, if someone just does one little thing wrong, then the Test Superfleet might just have this big black eye and the dynamic of the war shifts completely.
And I think like the way the Imperium approached this is fairly, like you said, it's pretty smart because if you look at it from their perspective, they're being invaded, so kind of there's a lot on the line already. So losing 300 billion ISKs worth of dreads, taking a punt, is probably a drop in the ocean in the grand scheme of things. And there's this is a natural progression, I guess, from what they tried to do in Catch when they pushed the those poor Russians in and then never escalated on top of them, and weren't the good guys in that occasion. But so they've been trying a few different things, and this is a natural follow on from that, I guess. And it's interesting to see. We'll see what happens next, whether there'll be another play made, whether they'll try something slightly different. Maybe they'll sneak some dreads across and then have them logged off next time so they don't have to go through the gate. We'll see.
Yeah.
So this does highlight the real importance of a regional gate. So you have to take that gate in order to get in the next region. You can't just sino through. So this is very similar to the dynamic in Fountain. Between Fountain and Delve, there is a regional gate in Y-2. So kind of take us through what this means for Fountain. Are you going to move the front to Y-2 and have a similar dynamic, or are you just going to say Fountain's done and move somewhere else?
Right. Well, let's talk about Fountain. The YTAC2 Keepstar came down, and that was a Keepstar that had given Pappy Forces a little bit of trouble in the form of Boat, who had a nice bombing run with Sister Bliss and stopped an armor timer. I think it was an armor timer.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So that one took us a couple of attempts, which is fine. We learned plenty in the time that elapsed between those two. But yeah, this one came down, and really that when we moved Super's Titans across into Fountain, that kind of sealed the deal there, and just closed that one out. But we had a couple of pretty decent hard engagements over that before it actually died, and they were pretty interesting actually, because we hadn't had much in the way of large scale action outside of the OP Keepstar on that front for some time, since before it kind of withdrew. Before that, I think C-N was probably the last. The fight we had in C-N was probably the last big one. so that was interesting, you know, and it was what was really cool about that whole series of events, which led up to it eventually dying, the White H2 Keepstar, is that we saw like some interim shifts in tactics and meta from timer to timer. So, you know, early on these defenses, the Imperium forces started refitting their feroxes to be maximum range to shoot sort of the long range doctrines and fighters that we were using to do the reinforcements. And then after we fought like that a couple of times, they rolled out a rock doctrine, which was sort of even longer range, and that was intended to kind of counter the cruise missile Ravens which were being used. And then we had to sort of adjust tactics to safeguard the Ravens after the very big bomb run that they ate the first time that those were used. So it was really interesting, actually. Over the course of like 2 weeks, we saw an evolution in tactics from timer to timer, which was really cool when you see that happen, especially on the kind of scale that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's dead now. Rip.
That's the sixth one in that region. I'm laughing at the way you said that. J5A was the first Keepstar to die in Fountain. IGE came down, CTAC-N, OTAC, PN, KVN, and now YTAC-2. That is all the Keepstars belonging to the Imperium in Fountain. And Fountain already lost all the iHubs. In fact, some of those iHubs are already being transferred away from Horde, who conquered the iHubs, to people who are expected to take over that SOV. And the first group we saw move in, I think it's to the Pegasus constellation, is Nullsecnia Schulpen, I think. That is Nullsecnia, not Low-Secnia Schulpen. So that wraps up the Fountain campaign, doesn't it, Headliner?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, no one lives there anymore. There's not really anything left to destroy. And it's been a sort of that Fountain was a sort of a campaign of 2 phases, I guess. You know, there was quite a lot of hard yards fought for in the initial phase, and then after it withdrew, it was mainly just a massive structure sweep where we tried to take out everything of real value, and then sort of as quickly as possible, you know, time is permitting, just get it done with and move on, draw a line under it and move on and onto different things. But I think it's important to remember now that, I mean, those timers, they're all done. Basically forget about them now, draw a line under it, reset our expectations, and go for another phase of the war.
Yeah, did that really do anything for your efforts taking out Fountain? Couldn't you just have gone to like Quarius into Delve?
I mean, there's a question that gets asked a lot, but I mean, I don't think it would make sense to leave all that infrastructure intact, because then you're just offering. Say we did push them all the way in Delve, they could then just like escape across the White H2 ZXB regional and Keepstar chain up to somewhere else. So we were there. We had the means to kill them. It felt kind of appropriate to do so. Mm-hmm. You know, it's nice landmark kind of thing for our members. You know, something tangible to show. And you know, obviously, I don't think they didn't lose one. The J5A one wasn't theirs. Remember, they didn't lose one until we got down to KVN. But yeah, I mean, there's this sort of, it's just something to wave around and, you know, show this is what all the effort's for, right?
Yeah. So I mean, strategically though, it does close down that avenue of exiting.
I mean, to a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they can still go through there should they need to. They still are a formidable force. They haven't lost this war by any means.
Oh, absolutely not. Like you know, we talked about this endlessly about, oh, was it a floodplain, was it a fortress? Well, it doesn't matter anymore because it's gone. But they certainly, you know, that doesn't mean that they're defeated or, you know, I wouldn't say even losing right now. You know, it's all going to come down to what happens in and around Delve. And, you know, that's not quite happened yet. So, I mean, it's obviously there's a big chunk of infrastructure and stuff that's gone now. But I mean, it was surprising really because they're shifting backwards and forwards between Delve and Fountain, at least to me, wouldn't make a huge amount of sense. It'd be quite difficult to do if you're having to get into the habit of moving stuff, especially like Supers Titans, across that regional gap constantly, which is why I'm quite surprised that it stayed for as long as they did. But you know, it's in the grand scheme of things, you know, the focus now, you know, expectations have to be reset and move on.
Yeah. You guys, I think it's an underrated thing, but you guys built, I don't know if you were involved in this, but the Keepstar Trail from Catch all the way up to Iridia is it's a pretty impressive construction program.
It's a lot of Keepstars, isn't it? A lot of Keepstars drop to avoid taking a regional gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's what, 11 in total?
Yeah. I don't know that number, but it spans, I believe, 4 regions. So that number is not surprising.
Yeah, I think what that illustrates really is just how long of a way it is to go across the 4 or 5 regions that are arguably, well, it's shrinking now, but the battleground for this war. It just covers such a vast area, and how significant those regional gates are, right? Because one gate shifts you, you know, 10 Sinos.
Yep. But also it allows travel between the north and the south as if there are 2 theaters relatively safely, even for a pilot who has a super capital and needs to travel alone can get through this space. And that's a powerful asset going forward, I would think, because I imagine this is going to be a multi-front invasion. It already is on multi-fronts, but it may stay that way. It may actually consolidate into like Aquarius attack, for instance, or a Paragon Soul to period basis attack. At some point, you're going to need to get within jump range of Delve so that you can apply pressure by having your super capital fleet nearby. Right?
I hope so.
You want to tell us? Do you want to tell us your battle plan? Can I?
If you another popular weekend EVE Online show has read the battle plan out many times before. I think it's public knowledge now. I don't think there's any value to the viewers in me repeating it.
Okay.
But you know, like it's all going to come down to what happens in and around those regions, the Delve and Quirius area. So watch this space.
Yeah, that's makes the most amount of sense. I imagine we'll see some move fleets over the weekend, some a little bit more cleanup, and then we'll brace ourselves, as I think Billy said, phase 3. They'll be going into phase 3, which is probably going to look like
phase 3.
Yeah, apparently.
What was phase 2?
Fountain, probably.
Well, in that case, what was phase 1?
I think is what.
I don't know. It's not my phases.
In the popular mindset, phase 1 was when Init was fighting back. Phase 2 is when the glassing of Fountain, and now phase 3 is okay. Now what?
I thought phase 1 was preparation and deployment. Phase 2 was Fountain. Phase 3 was going to be Delve.
I think it's being made up as they go.
Can you bring McLeod? Can you bring up one of those moon phase charts so we can actually see the whole plan?
Like moon phases.
Let me. I have it written down on a post-it note here somewhere. I'll rummage around on my desk and get back to you.
It's that important. It's on a post-it note.
Yeah, I keep all my important information on sticky pieces of paper.
All right. So Esoteria, is there anything going on in Esoteria? I think there's got to be some Goon Swarm or Imperium activity out there. That is any of that meaningful that you guys know about?
I think there's been an ongoing sort of harassment of it, right, to try and steal a little focus. I think that their attitude is that if they're constantly looking over their shoulder to see what's happening at home, they're not going to be putting all of their effort into looking forward and fighting us. And I assume, I mean, we've done that in other wars. It's a strategy people do. We haven't had a huge amount to do with what's been going on down there because we have spent so much of our time in and around Fountain and doing stuff. Whether or not that will change now that we don't have structure after structure to shoot in Fountain and no one fighting around there, like, we'll see. I'm not too plugged into what's to what happens there though.
I think the idea for Esoteria, alongside what Headliner said, is it sort of goes along with the Imperium PsyOps campaign, which is like what they're trying to do, like drive a wedge between all the people in Pappy, right? So if you can make a bunch of timers in Esoteria, and then Test has to go and defend those timers instead of going to a big fight, you get to say, hey guys, fighting with Test. Test cares more about their home space than they do about you. Do you really want to be here? And that's like the type of messaging that the Imperium has been trying to send over and over again to try and create some division between these groups that don't necessarily want to work together or don't necessarily have a history of working together, or maybe they have some friction between them. So they're trying to stir the pot that way, which I think is a pretty a good tactic as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. All right. Well, that's the update for the war in Nullsec. Thanks very much, Headliner, for telling us what's going on there. Next, we're going to move over to the next phase of the show, which is missions. And we're going to talk to Hateless about that. Headliner, you can stick around if you like, but if you have to leave, we understand. Don't want to hold you prisoner.
I do have to go and attend to something, so I'll say goodbye. But thank you, as ever, for having me. Nice to chat.
Thank you, Headliner.
Fun, man.
Okay, and this is actually going to be mostly Hateless. Caleb, if you guys want to take off, it's totally fine, because this is going to be a lot of Hateless. Fonsui was supposed to be here to do some of these questions.
I pinged him. He didn't say or do anything, so I think he's offline. He might have slept in or something.
Yeah, getting some much needed rest. That guy's works really hard all the time. So I'm going to ask you these questions.
Okay.
And Hateless is, first of all, let's get introduced. You're somebody that runs missions. How big of an understatement is that? Tell me what you do.
I basically do PvE in high sec. The only activity in high sec that I haven't really done is FOBs, and I've kind of watched some footage of FOBs, but I haven't really done a lot of them. But I do invasions, I do Abyss, I do. I'm currently working on a Zero to Hero series. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I made a brand new character, and the goal is to make it able to participate in like most doctrines, which is cruisers.
And who has done a lot of FOBs? Any reason why you don't do them?
Yeah, those are forward operating bases.
I don't see the incentive to do it compared to other activities, so I haven't really hopped in on them.
Sometimes people will pay you to remove FOBs in an area. You can actually make a decent amount of money because they're annoying as hell because they keep reinforcing your structures.
I'm sure I'd be able to take one down, but
you can solo it with a rattlesnake or even like a blamed out. I've seen a blamed out prophecy do it.
Oh, I have a whole invasion fleet. I could probably knock it out and no problem. Yeah, that's a whole thing that I probably have like 10 different ways to take them down that I don't even know about yet because I haven't really played with them much. But one
of my greatest FOB stories. I'll tell that later. Go ahead.
But basically, I do high sec activity and I like to do PvE, so I just kind of have fun doing PvE.
That's what you do. And you do it very well, very, very well. And you stream it for other people to watch so they can learn how to do it too. Yeah. Yep. What's that channel real quick?
Hateless Gaming.
All right.
This one right here.
Hateless Gaming on Twitch. Yeah, go ahead and drop it in the channel. If you guys aren't...
It's the name. If you click on that and you hit follow, you can just click on it, follow there from chat. If you guys
strongly recommend everybody follow Hateless because if you learn how to mission, you'll always have something to do in EVE, even when your friends aren't on.
You also have a great YouTube channel there as well.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, we all are.
It's coming along.
Okay, so let's talk about missions here. So define missions for us and help us understand the basic concepts involved.
So mission running is really simple. It's one of the first things that you're introduced to in EVE Online. So you log in, you do your new player experience, and it kind of pushes you to go to the career agents, which kind of teach you really, really rudimentary basic, like, here's the ABCs of how to play the game. Now you can go ahead and start forming words kind of skills. Just kind of how to operate in the game, I guess. That's what the career agents do. And then it kind of encourages you to go to level 1 and 2s, which I kind of have a problem with, but everybody's done at least one mission. I'd like to think, because you talk to an agent, he gives you an objective, you go run the mission, you turn in, you talk to the agent again, he gives you reward. So it's or go do this, get paid. Super simple.
And just real quickly, to say that you run missions is such an understatement. It's like saying Evel Knievel rides a bike. I watched your channel.
Yeah. That's a great
you don't
one.
just run missions, right? You just taken it to the next level where you can like speed run them. You can just maximize the amount of ISK you could make in an hour and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
You ever think about the things you're doing in the missions, like from a in-character perspective? Like some of the missions in Eve have you doing terrible things.
They do, and
Yeah.
I've done it a couple times. Kind of like, what the hell am I actually doing?
Like, have you ever done the Galente Epic Arc and sided with the
No.
syndicate?
They're not very farmable, so I haven't done the epic arcs.
Because
that-
the Galente Epic Arc gives you the option to sell a kid back into human trafficking.
Oh no,
Jeez.
that's
Dark
horrible.
world. The dark world.
I think the most classic sort of legacy one that like veterans will know of is like, oh, I have to rescue that damsel in distress
The damsel in
again.
distress,
Yeah.
that's
Again.
actually a mission
Yeah.
that is incredibly lucrative, and I run that one a lot. It's
That poor
the blitz on
damsel.
it's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
we save the damsel a lot.
Spoiler, doesn't she get killed? Like you have to destroy her ship or something?
No, so the mission has like a hub, and you shoot the hub, and a bunch of crap spawns. And then when you kill the hub, the damsel like teleports into your cargo. It used to drop in a can, but they changed it so some objectives just teleport into your cargo when you complete the mission, which is weird.
okay.
They did it to make
New
things
players
easier.
would, constantly
They-
get stuck.
They would lose it, or somebody harassing them would shoot the can and kill the can, make it so they can't turn in the mission.
Oh,
Which-
wow.
Really sucks.
Yeah, that's an issue.
There
That's
used-
an issue.
There used to be one where you would rescue a damsel, but you'd turn her into her family, and she would end up they would want you to assassinate her anyway. I forget which one that was, but I
don't
literally, and this is why Baleful's question is very good. I literally stopped playing missions because I didn't like the ethical choices that I was
know.
offered.
Oh, okay.
I literally stopped saying I can't role play this. I don't want it on my conscience. I'd rather not do it.
There are a
See,
lot of missions that just have you doing terrible things.
Yeah, I haven't really read the descriptions much. I pay more attention to the payout and how much time it takes to do it.
I was gonna say, I think I and the majority of the rest of the player base stopped playing missions because it wasn't worth our time in terms of ISK. So now that you've min-maxed everything, what sort of income are you looking at, Hateless?
Depends on how much you're willing to get into it. If you just want to have a battleship and hit F1, you're only going to make like 50 million ISK an hour. If you decide to learn a little bit about the missions and kind of understand what you're doing and like not stepping over a quarter or over $1 to earn a quarter for salvaging and all that, you start blitzing, you can get into the 75 to 120 million ballpark, depending on your game knowledge and how well you understand the missions, how well you can decline and all that. And then you can take it up another step. This isn't high sec. There's other ways to do this. You can start running burners, and if you start running the burners, you're looking at 150 to 200. And if you optimize and buy an additional ship for each burner, and then really like get down in the nitty gritty, you can get up to 250 plus million ISK an hour in high sec on a single account.
Are there any LP stores that you think should be buffed or nerfed?
I think like half the LP stores aren't worth running, and I think that SOE is about in line where they should be. But there are some better factions to run and some worse factions to run, but the main income is loyalty points. So if we go into like level 5 mission running, it's like 95% loyalty points is where the payout is, and like level 4s are more like 60-40, where 60% of your income is from loyalty points and 40s like actual ISK.
Some factions just have terrible LP stores. Like the Amatar ones are really, really bad.
Yeah. And it just makes it not really worth running there. And that's why we have the idea that loyalty points aren't worth it, because there's a lot of places where they're really not worth it. They're
A
not
lot of people will be loyal to one group or another and want missions for their faction, but sometimes that faction just has really, really bad loyalty points.
Yeah, and
Well,
it makes it
people
difficult.
Have chosen some poor loyalties.
So on stream now, it's we're showing like one of the burner missions that you do, and this is like the
So-
extreme high end of the missions, right? And then we see you're not doing one, but you're doing 3 at the same time.
Yes, this is
Oh my
common
God.
gameplay for me. I'll run 3 accounts running the missions at the same time. Each if you guys are paying attention to what's going on the screen, I could identify him, but I'm not going to try. Each account is doing his own thing, but they're doing the same thing, but they're not fleeted together. They're not helping each other at all. They're just doing their thing. And I've done it so much that I don't have to think about what I do. So piloting multiple accounts is really not a problem.
You're like Spock.
What's the fastest way to get faction standing? If you just want faction standing.
It's really easy. It doesn't work for Amar because Amar has the Amnitar and the Amar faction. They're kind of split up into 2, and then it doesn't derive really well with Caldari. So it's really weird. But for Galente and Mimitar, you can go in and turn in for the data center missions. If you Google EVE Online data center missions, it's a fantastically
Cosmos,
written.
right?
No, not Cosmos. Cosmos is different. But there's a fantastically written guide on data center missions. Basically, you go buy tags in JITA, you go ship them off to a system, or go fly out to a system, and as long as your social skills are trained, you can get your faction standings to 5 within an hour. And that allows you to mass decline, allows you to start farming missions like you're supposed to, rather
How
than
much does
spending
that cost?
about 600 million. It's cheap. That's cheap. Yeah. But it costs that, and obviously if everybody goes and buys the tags are going to get more expensive. But at the moment, they're like 600 million for both Galente and
Is that
Mimitar.
repeatable? Or
No, you can only do it once. So you want to make sure that you have your social skills trained first before you do that. So it's a one-time thing. Make sure you do your homework before you do it, but it gives you instant standings. And I always compare it to the standard grind, which is where I go do level 1 missions, go do level 2 missions, and level 3s, and grind your way up to be able to do level 4s. And then you go run level 4s for 40 hours to get your faction standings up above 5, because faction standings to 5 is required for farming it properly. I always recommend first-time mission runners do it the slow way so they can learn their missions.
I think it's funny that they're cheaper than the security tags that I always have to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Back to my script.
Yeah, let's try and stick to the script. I see like 100 different ways that the script can kind of like devolve into like complex, long conversations.
We literally need a mini series.
Yes.
But this is what we talked about yesterday. So let's get on this so we can put out some actual knowledge to players who are interested but don't understand all the advanced questions that are being asked. So at this point, we'll start going through this. Define the categories of missions.
So we have a few. There's R&D agents, there's courier missions, there's security missions, and then I can't remember if there's a 4th type. Those are the 3 ones: the courier,
Trade?
R&D agents, and is there trade missions? I wouldn't know.
I think you have to stuff on the market, but
Distribution.
Distribution would be the hauling missions.
yeah.
But
Sometimes they're combined. You haul something and then you sell it, I think, but I'm not sure.
you just haul it between 2 stations. It's really, and then there's mining missions.
The circle agents.
Yeah. But basically the other missions just kind of like teach you like really basic concepts of the game, and then the security missions are where the ISK actually is. So if you want to earn ISK, you want to go into security. R&D with faction used to be you used to have to run them to upgrade blueprints or research blueprints, because that's how you research them. You dealt with R&D agents, but they changed that, so they're no longer useful in the game. They just kind of sit there and do nothing.
Can't you get data cores from them?
Yeah, you can, but don't you get more from exploration?
Probably.
Yeah. So.
All right. So those are the different types of missions. They all have different things you do. Haul. You can go into combat, and so forth.
Yeah.
And so static nature of tasks and rewards and repeatability. You want to talk about those?
It's incredibly repeatable. So you can So the little clip that he showed, I can do that for 5 minutes, or I can do that for 12 hours without any problems. Really, there's you don't run into standings issues. You don't run into lack of content. It just keeps on going as long as you want to sit there and play it. It's really repeatable. And then what was the other part that you said?
Tasks and rewards, the nature.
They're always the same. They don't change. There's no variation, deviation, or RNG in missions. You get the mission. That mission is what it is. You're doing that, and they don't change.
Yeah, and the levels of difficulty. You want to explain that?
So they're rated 1 through 5. The difficulty for them goes up by about a factor of 10 for each level. So level 1s is about 1/10 of level 2s and going up. So a level 4 mission is about 10 times more difficult than your standard level 3 mission, and a level 5, primarily for making ISK. We talked about level 4s and 5s, but level 5s are about 10 times more difficult than a level 4. So, and they're only doable in low sec. That's an entirely different rabbit hole. I've done them. They're fun. They print insane amounts of ISK.
People put posses with carriers in every system.
People put posses with super carriers in them to farm level 5s. Let me just clarify. They make billions of ISK an hour done properly. Wow. It's insane.
Okay. And then tell us about agents and how they fit into this whole thing.
You have to talk to an agent to get a mission. They're everywhere. You can find them in the agency. The payout for missions deviates a little bit with the security that the agent's based in. So the agent that you pick is very critical to how much you get paid. So you want to pick the right agents to run your missions for.
So the one thing which I do know regarding agents is, there's a lot of agents obviously spread about the entirety of New Eden. One of the things is, you get some high level 5 agents and stuff, obviously in sort of like NPC nullsec and sort of I think some lowsecs as well. But you can pack in.
Level 5 only exists in lowsec. They're not in nullsec. They're not in.
Oh, okay.
They only exist in lowsec. Level 4s exist everywhere.
Okay. Sorry, my bad. But one of the kind of interesting things about NPC agents and their missions is you can pack a lot of potential kind of ISK creation or ISK generation into a very small space. Like there has been many instances where like a large alliance has like basically put themselves into a nullsec sort of mission hub and lived there and been able to generate like a lot of wealth just from that one system and like the sort of, I think it was the surroundings, like systems like one jump out
constellation around the agent is where that will come from.
Yeah, so the capacity for its generation for like large groups in nullsec like is actually pretty significant when you look at the capacity for like level 4 agents and running level 4 missions.
250 million ISK in high sec, or per hour in high sec. The burner missions out in nullsec, the way that they do them is insane. They spend hundreds of billions on their setups, but they are so wickedly fast and efficient at doing them. Almost every single pirate faction ship comes from running missions in some way or another. All the Helas that exist, all the rattlesnakes, all the Orthroses, all the Garmers, all the Succubi, all the Phantasms, all those pirate ships come from mission runners, and they're farmed insanely fast. And it all comes from LP, so it doesn't really make a lot of like raw ISK. It makes loyalty points, and then the loyalty points get sunk, or the ISK gets sunk. The ISK that's made gets sunk into the loyalty points, and then it makes a product that services the game. So yeah.
And that market is full all the time, so there's definitely a lot
there's people running it, and a lot of wealth can be generated in a small area, and it's not limited at all. Like it's not a limited resource.
Yeah. So let's describe or you describe for us the place that combat missions occupy in the sandbox. Like how do these things fit into the whole game?
They kind of are like a sideline thing. You can kind of do them even if there's people doing other things. It doesn't take up any space. It just kind of exists. Does that make sense? How it affects the sandbox is that the LP makes items.
Basically, what's their place in the game? The missions, what's their place in this game? If somebody says, I play EVE Online, I do missions, like What space does that occupy in this universe that's alive and living?
So the loyalty points really get converted into faction gear, and all the faction ammo you fight, like everything that is green that has that little green icon comes out of missions.
Yeah.
So people run missions to make goods. It's a production activity. You're shooting things, but it's a production activity. You build green stuff.
Right. So some of the things here, like, this is good. Missions are a good way to learn how to fly and learn how to fight in the game, because you're fighting things that you can usually beat.
Yeah, you're fighting things like it's predictable. So you get a scenario and you can build a fit to fight that scenario, and it kind of teaches you basic fitting skills and basic piloting skills. Really, more so the burners than the actual missions, because missions are really easy, but burners and Abyss teach actual piloting better.
Yeah.
If that makes
and for
sense.
a new player, you're getting money as you're learning, so that helps offset some of the costs and stuff. But compare this missioning, if somebody says, I want to run missions, compare that to what it would be like to, do exploration, for instance, or wormhole sleeper sites or Abyssal dead space, or do you consider all these things missions? Incursions and invasions?
Missions are level 4s and level 5s to me, because I don't really have much respect for the lower tier missions, as they don't pay well enough. Well, they don't pay well. Like, you can sit there and run level 3s for hours and hours. There's another streamer who kind of followed my 0 to hero lead and decided to do a level 3 runner to try and pay for his Omega, and he averaged like 25 million an hour running level 3s, which is painfully slow for income. And there's so many other things that you can do aside from level 1s, 2s, and 3s to go make it as a new player. You can explore, you can participate in invasion or incursion fleet, you can go do Abyss. There's just better activities until you can do level 4s, and it's really kind of locked into being Omega at the moment, because you can't do level 4s as an alpha, which is kind of a bummer. But it is what it is, because people were botting them too much, and so they had to put some kind of barrier in there to keep bots out.
Yeah, and income-wise, because that's probably what the advanced players that watch the show are interested in. I'm asking questions for new players, but as far as like income, I think this question was surfaced before. Money involved in doing level 4s, level 5s, as compared to ratting, for instance, or invasions.
Okay, so a really common comparison that I make, I compare mission running to 2 activities. Income-wise, 2 mission running accounts is the equivalent income of a supercarrier in nullsec. They make about 250 to 300 million ISK an hour. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, please. I've heard of them making like 450 million ISK an hour. So I'm going to use that number because that's the outlier, that the highest that I've heard of. And then the Abyssal runners make 200 to 300 million ISK an hour, depending on filament costs, site time, and stuff like that. Whereas a single mission running account can easily, and not be like super attentive to them, but easily make 200 million ISK an hour. So 2 mission running accounts is about equivalent to a super carrier, or 1 mission running account is very equivalent to running Abyss. So they're very comparable if we kind of look at that. The is to put down to make that same income. I also compare the investment to do these activities rather than just what they make, because that's a very important factor. Right. But the my current setup on one of my accounts costs about 5 to 7 billion ISK, depending on how shiny I go with the mission ship and how nice the clone is. Mm-hmm. But for 5 billion ISK, you can make 200 million ISK an hour, which is really, really solid and a good number. Because if you compare that to supercarrier, I think, what are they, 20 billion at the moment for a fully fit supercarrier? Maybe my information's a little outdated, but I didn't know for a moment.
It's wildly changing.
They've been all over the place.
Yeah.
So I've also heard of them being as cheap as 10 billion. I actually
10, 12 is the cheapest they got just for the hull, and then they've been as high as 28 a long time ago. But they rest. They rest around. I think. Let's just say they're going to settle around 18 to 24, probably go back up to where they were. I don't know. Okay. That's just it doesn't matter. It's a small point.
I just wanted to sort of segue out, because you kind of mentioned about the sort of like, the sort of like running cost. Well, not maybe the running cost, but like the setup cost, for kind of doing missions, to the level that you're kind of doing. ganking is a thing in HiSec. I'm kind of there
Yes.
sort of wondering to myself, like, are there like good practices in terms of like basically mitigating any of those situations that, you know,
Yes.
you could pass on to people so that they don't kind of like go, you know, headstrong into this and then, you know, realize that, you know, and basically get kind of really, you know, disheartened when they get you know, if they get ganked kind of thing. Like, is there good ways, good practices on you know, making sure that you get ganked less?
I have a few for you. Gankers are looking for the high value ship with not attentive players and the person that's not, like, literally not attentive and easy to kill. So they're looking for low HP, not paying attention, high value is what they're looking for. Those are the three criteria. If you knock out any one of those, that makes you a less valuable target to them. So what I tell mission runners is to, one, use an insta warp off the station. You undock insta warp. You can make a bookmark with a cheap frigate. It costs you nothing to do. And then two, don't make yourself an easy target. So there's always a beacon that you land on, and if somebody scans you down, they land on that beacon. So if you're in the mission and you move off of that beacon, and say you're in a Raven or something, you just micro jump drive away, somebody scans you down, lands on the beacon, they're not going to kill you because they're not there. You can just not be where they're going to land. And if you just move and pay attention and just kind of be a little bit more aware than off and asleep, and they're going to have a lot harder time catching you. There's been several instances on stream where people have tried, and because I'm moving and not being stationary and asleep, they just don't catch me. But insta-warps and insta-docks help out a lot. They can't catch on the stations. It makes it very difficult. And just moving and not being asleep is what will save you 90% of the time.
Well, the it's kind of interesting because the insta docks and insta docks are actually like the reason why they're kind of useful, at least from what I understand, is a lot of the time the gankers are looking for the information, right? They're looking for information as to, you know, whether that ship that's just undocked is worth something, and so they're looking for that moment to be able to lock it and scan it.
Yep.
And if you're using insta-docks and insta-undocks, you're basically denying them that intelligence.
Yeah, it completely denies them the opportunity to be able to catch you in that way. Almost every time before you get ganked, you will be scanned by a frigate sitting on the station or a frigate sitting on a gate. They need to know what you're fit to, know what to bring, to know how much health you have, and 3, know if you're even worth killing at all in the first place. So they need to scan you to be able to mark you as a target. And then if you just completely deny them the ability to scan you by using an insta-warp and not sitting stationary, then you're far less likely to be hit. Again, they're looking after fish in the barrel. There's a barrel. There's a fish in there. I want to shoot that barrel and get reward. That's really all that they're looking for. Or tiers. They're always after tiers. If you get ganked, don't complain. Just move on. Or ask them what you can do to not get ganked in the future.
That's like, tiers are like LP to gankers, right? That's like their extra bonus.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Let's move on here a little bit. What do players have? What do players need to have in order to engage in this content at each level? So how does somebody get involved with this?
So it's really easy. So somebody who wanted to learn missions, if I'm a first-time mission runner, I want to do missions to make income, is the question the hypothetical question.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell them to go buy a battleship. I have tons of fittings on my workbench. I can provide you guys with a link, but I'd tell you to go buy a cheap battleship, whatever you can afford. If you can afford more, you're going to make more. But whatever you're comfortable flying and comfortable losing, go buy that, and then go earn level 4 missions by either the if you want to jump right into level 4s, then go do the data center missions, get the level 4s unlocked, or do the actual grind where you go 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and then go up to getting to 4s, and then do the grind and learn your missions. You can do missions with a cheap battleship. They're not hard to do. You're just not going to make a lot while you're learning. But that teaches you what this mission is, how hard is it, can I do it, and all that. And then there's another source that I recommend, which is Eve Survival, which is it's ancient, but it's the mission running Bible. If you look up your mission on Eve Survival, you're not going to be surprised, and you'll have a nice, easy, calm time doing missions. And you just kind of pay attention, stay aligned, and start running them. And then you can save up and upgrade your ship, and you can save up and start learning each burner one at a time. and then slowly build your way up to that a high crazy income. As your knowledge and game knowledge increase, you make more money.
So
which
you
is really
can't.
cool.
You can fight missions, your first level, second level, third level, until you get to fourth missions. You said there was an alternative there. You said data
Center missions.
What's
You
that?
basically go buy a bunch of. I explained them to Baleful a little earlier. I think she's up.
Oh.
No, she's over that way.
She's on. Yeah.
I'm trying to point in the right direction. But anyways, you can just go turn those tags in, and if your social skills are good, you can instantly have level 4 missions unlocked.
Well,
and then
how do
if
you can buy those, or how do you get?
yeah,
those?
you can just buy them in Jita.
No, wait. So I can just go to Jita, buy these tags,
Train
Turn 'em in.
the skills. Train the
train the
skills.
skills
Yeah.
to get the bonuses.
Yeah,
turn
and then
them
it's
in.
instant. It takes like an hour.
Okay, I didn't know that.
That's
amazing.
exceptional.
Yeah, you train your social skills first. So the let me pull it up here.
Yeah, I think it's.
Read this off so I don't get it wrong. I believe it's social and diplomacy that you train in
That
the
would
social
make
tab.
sense.
But you train connections and you train social up to 5, and then you go do those data center missions, and then that gives you instant access to level 4s. It really costs you no real time, and then
So
you
there
can
are-
start learning force.
Data core missions. There are missions to do.
Data center missions. It's just a turn in. You go buy the tags. You go talk to the agent. The agent's like, "Hey, go collect this tag." You click.
Oh, then you buy the
complete.
tag.
Yeah, you buy the tags. You go to the agent. You request the mission. You click complete, and it completes the mission. Consumes the tag. You get standings gain.
So
Wow.
you essentially sort of bypass the sort of like, oh, I have to go and get it now kind of
I
thing.
thought
Like
that
you
was
already
to
pre
reduce
pre-fetched it.
These
So
are only
is it-
doable once per character, period. So once you do them
Yeah.
once, you can't do them again. And there's a data center set for each of the Empire factions. There's Amnatar and Amar, Caldari, Galente, Mimitar, and yeah.
I mean-
this is everything. All 5.
Yeah.
No, not
Okay,
Yeah, sorry?
this is literally like an expressway or a toll road
Yeah,
version
it's-
of Vision.
It's the toll road. To get the same standings from not doing data centers and just hammering out level 4s takes roughly 40 hours of grinding with the
Isn't the
Memorial.
connection skill something you wouldn't have to train beforehand because it just adjusts your base standing. The social one would adjust the rate gain.
So they work together. So connections is retroactive, and
Right, that's what I'm saying. You could train that
But
afterwards.
that 20% gain is required. So at level 5, the 20% gain is required to unlock the level 4. So you turn in level 1s, and that unlocks the level 2s, and you turn in level 2s,
Right,
and
right,
that unlocks the level 3s. And if you don't train connections, you'll get locked at level 3. Because turning in the last level 3, it just barely gives you enough to unlock the level 4s, which then you turn into level 4s, and it solidifies your standings.
But I was just thinking from the purposes of just general standings repair.
Diplomacy is stronger in repair situations.
The social would be the increased.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 3 work together. You do
Yeah,
need
yeah.
good social skills to run missions.
You could
but
retroactively train connections, and it would still be the same.
connections and diplomacy can be trained post.
Yeah,
doing-
that's what I was saying.
Yeah. All right. So can you make some? So I'm now interested in missions. Can you make some recommendations on defining goals and for players that are just starting out?
It depends on what your goal is. Do you want a semi-AFK farming activity and fall asleep and get ganked eventually? I'm painting this in a bad way, but or do you want something that's a little bit more interactive? I would set my goal to learn all the burners. Is something that would get you started. As each burner is a little unique and they require you to fly in a different way to fight, and it teaches you a little bit. Or I want to learn all the missions. You just go hop in. It's really an activity. You just gotta jump in and start doing. I can't really give you your own goal, and that's kind of the
so there's multiple
beautiful
goals.
part of it. Yeah,
there's multiple goals here.
Yeah, there's 100 different ways you can look at it, but it's up to you as an EVE player to define your goals. And mission running to me is a means to an end. It makes ISK. It makes a lot of ISK, so that's why I like it.
What do you use the ISK for?
Science. Literally science. I try new things. So I I have invested into an entire fleet of ships that I science level 4s with. I have like every single ship you'd want to do level 4s with. And I try them out and try different things. And I also have branched out to Abyss, and that consumes ISK over time because I try new fits and they die. And then Invasions, right? It gives me investment money to learn new activities, and it also funded my entire level 5 mission fleet. So it funds me to do additional activities and funds my 6 accounts to stay active. I don't pay real money for EVE Online. I'm not in a position to do that at the moment. And with my PvE activity, I can afford to, or I can play the game for free. And it gives me that ability, which is really cool.
Yeah. And they also give you, so you're reinvesting in what you're doing and you're using it, like you said, for science, which is a great way to put it.
Yeah, I just learn, grow, and learn new things. I mean, it's a lot of ISK. I can throw out new fits and try new things. And it really allows me to, sandbox the game, I guess. That's what it is, right?
Right. So that's fantastic. Okay, what would you like to see like added or removed or changed about missions?
That's a really big question. That's a really big question. I think they're broken. That's my just TLDR. They are completely broken. The fact that you can manage standings and decline so many missions. The fact that level 1s, 2s, and 3s are completely underpaid and level 5s make so much money. They are broken in so many ways, and I think that they need to be redesigned from the ground up. Like they've been in the game for such a long time. The game has changed in so many ways. Every time we have a balance pass, we find new ways of doing things faster. Believe it or not, that resistance nerf that happened a little while ago, everybody's complaining about because their PvE got hit hard. Well, burners got a buff because Void Ammo is now more powerful. So we're doing burners faster than we were before that patch, even with dealing with the resistance changes. But every time there's a change in the game, we make it faster and it becomes a little bit more out of balance. In my opinion, missions are in a broken state, and I would like to see them rebalance in some ways. I have several ideas of how to change missions. We could make that so, I don't know, standings makes it so that you get more payout per missions, or make the pay scale out not exponential from levels 1s through 5, because they're in an exponential. You get 10 times the pay as you go up each stage. Instead of an exponential curve, we could look at more of a linear curve going up. It would make it a lot fairer to the newer players hopping into the lower level missions. I just feel bad for new players that are, oh, hey, cool, we get put into this. Missions look like fun, right? Let's go do missions. Because that's what they're told to do as new players, and it's the first thing that you're introduced to. So I feel like that the balance of the lower level missions really needs to be assessed to encourage new players to be able to afford to blow up the ships and stuff. Because right now, if you run level 3s, you pay for a battlecruiser. It takes so long to replace that battlecruiser running level 3s. Sorry, I meant to say 3s there, but it takes so long to pay for your ships when you're a new player running the levels 1s through 3s that they become really risk adverse. And I'd like to see people being okay with losing their ships more often, and that's part of mission running. You do lose your ships. People gank them. You make mistakes. Ships die. But having people more comfortable with losing their ships makes them less risk adverse, and then encourages them to do things like stand up and fight for their station, or other activities that require some level of risk where you're confronting other players. And developing that kind of mindset, it's like, I lose a ship, I'm set back 5 days. This is not. Please don't do this to me. That sucks.
I still remember the one time I was doing level 3s, I think in a Brudix, and I think it was either level 3s or level 4, but essentially
probably doing level 3s in a Brudix. But
yeah. And you always kind of you always second guess yourself. It's oh, shall I do that one in low sec or not? That goes to low sec, and you're and most of the time you kind of go no, and then every so often you go, yeah, all right, go for it. But I remember one time when I kind of did do that, and I ended up getting caught by somebody in a curse, and it didn't end well.
Yeah, and then you're set back not 10 missions, you're set back 100 missions, and that sucks.
Yeah, you almost can't buy a battlecruiser with level 3s.
Yeah, level 4s will pay for whatever the hell you want to fly, and you can lose them without a problem. It's ridiculous. If you get effective at them.
So do you have any advice for people who are stuck? Corin Mon says there, where's Corin? Yeah, Corn Moore says, I swear I started and quit Eve 3 times because I got stuck in the mission hole.
Do something else when you're new besides missions. I don't recommend it to new players. I recommend it to an experienced player who's okay with loss and is willing to put down the time and in-game knowledge, like the learning knowledge investment to actually learn how to do missions correctly. That's what I'd recommend over doing the lower level missions. To new players, I'd recommend you find something that like Abyss or Exploration where you get comfortable losing a ship and get comfortable doing that. I really don't recommend it right away, but I do recommend it's something that you learn at some point sooner or later. Everybody should try them at least once. That is what I think, but it shouldn't be the first thing you do.
I'm glad you brought up Abyss there, because it feels to me like Abyssal sites are CCP's attempt at rebuilding missions from the ground up.
Yes.
Rebalanced the pay scale, they included more loss into it, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on that?
Abyss is absolutely fantastic for new players. It forces you to learn how to manually pilot your ship. It forces you to understand your fitting and why you're fitting it that way. The weather types give a lot of variation and different ways to do it. It's great sandbox wise. There's a lot of play to be had there, and a lot of deviation and variation where you can learn, try, experiment, see what works, what doesn't work, why it doesn't work. There's so much to learn from Abyss, especially as a new player, that I feel like Abyss is the combat way to learn EVE Online as a new player. It's a fantastic place at the moment. I really like the Abyss line of things.
Do the low-level Abysses make enough money for the new players?
Oh, yeah. In my Zero to Hero series, I popped in a 2 million ISK Punisher, literally 2 million ISK, and it successfully did a couple Tier 1 Abyss. Lowly little brand new character. I used an invite code and got the 1 million free skill points. But he was able to build up, and he's now flying a 300 million Esquila, 30 days of game, me playing it, not real world time, but I played it for 30 days ish, about 2 hours a day. And he's now flying a fully fit Gila and making 50 to 60 million ISK an hour. As a fairly new player, that's insane. And then the Punisher can easily be upgraded to like 24 million ISK Imperial Navy Slicer, and you're making 25 to 30 million ISK an hour in that, and then you can upgrade again into like a Succubus or a shinier Navy Slicer and make about 35 million ISK an hour. That's enough to Omega your account. That's enough to play in EVE Online. Because if you think about it, you play for a couple hours each day, that pays for Omega. You play a little bit longer, you can afford to go PvP. Like it's not hard to earn your way in EVE Online through Abyss, and it's something that is very new bro friendly. Aside from the shift losses, but that's what I think new bro should experience, is the shift losses, the setbacks, and learning, because that's important in the game. You have to, rise up to the challenge.
So you think that a new player coming off the conveyor belt pops in, says, "Now what?" You would point him
directly to Abyss, yep, or Exploration, or go learn production of some kind, because that's what they want to do. They want to build. So
yeah, but the game isn't really set up to do that, is it?
No, it's not. The new player experience literally says, "Hey, yeah, missions are good income. Go do missions," and the agency's built in and everything, and they kind of get pushed off into missions, and they aren't pushed into Abyss. I'd love to see the new player experience throw a player into an Abyss, even if they lose or not. That would be great in some way. Because I mean, the whole story arc right now in EVE Online is revolving around the Triglavians and Abyss and invasions and all that.
Do you think there should be a new career agent in the new starting areas that like sends you into the Abyss?
That would be cool. I would love to see that.
And the wormhole one, yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Well, I've heard a lot of new players get stuck in wormholes. I think that's what.
Yeah,
that's why they invented a rescue operation over at Signal Cartel to rescue new players that are. It's like, hello, can somebody let me out? I'm trapped in this house.
Yeah, but the TLDR is I recommend missions to people who are looking for something that can be consistent, that they can always fall back on to make ISK. So if I run out of money, as long as I don't sell my mission running fleet, it's something that's stable and hasn't changed in years. So it's something that I can always fall back on to make ISK. So it kind of gives me the foundation to go explore and the foundation to risk other things without risking my income. So I can always have my income there and go back to it at any time. Once you've done it once, you can continue to do it forever. At least in the state of the game as it is now. Instead, I'd like to see that change. But as it is, it's a good foundation to fall back on if you lose all your other stuff.
It's a good combat foundation, right? Like
Yeah,
if you want to fight in spaceships, doing missions is a good way to make some money and gain some experience. And then, like you can be versatile into all kinds of other PvE, right? Player versus environment, which allows you to fight in abyssal space, maybe even go into invasion areas like Baleful does. You can fly with her for Edencom. And
hey, I'm pro Edencom too. Maybe we should get our fleets together at some point. That'd be fun.
Fun times, yeah. I do it mostly for RP reasons, but we've definitely made some money. Like, you can get good money once you get like flashpoints and stuff.
Yeah, I've been doing the. I know this is completely off topic, but I've been fighting war posts with a solo actually, and
you can actually make good money in the minor victory systems. You farm for a couple hours, and then you can only make good money for like a couple hours, but it's like 400 an hour, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Right. One last thing, I wanted to go back to the way the game is developed, because I feel like sometimes CCP is actually watching the show. Sometimes. And I'm wondering, like, do you feel like the game has really pushed players to be active with each other rather than to be active alone doing missions?
It's more of an active alone, but the running missions in general does provide other players with a service. So, for example, the missions I do make SOE probes and probe accessories, which we make all kinds of. You guys can joke about that all you want. We make probes and probes accessories and send them off to JITA to sell. And a lot of players use that for exploration. So it is something that helps other players in other ways, but indirectly, if that makes sense. It's not a direct interaction with other players. It's an indirect interaction.
I mean, sister probes and sister probe launches are like almost mission critical to PvP and to nullsec, to be honest.
And you fed me almost.
Faction stuff is crazy important.
Yeah, so I mean, I specialize in making that stuff, and I'm rewarded pretty well for it. So,
as you should.
All right. Well, Hateless, you are the Mozart of missions to us, and we want to make sure that people get the impression that's correct, and that is like this is advanced gameplay, practically an engineer when it comes to missions. So sign up for watching him play on Twitch at Hateless Gaming, and
I'll
subscribe
provide a link.
and
Just give me a
support,
second.
and support his efforts. So this guy gives out a lot of knowledge.
I was actually planning on streaming this right after this show, if I'm okay to, advertise in that way. I'm gonna go live right after this and stream mission running because I felt it was fitting. You guys just asked me a bunch about missions, so I may as well go show off running them and answer questions. So,
well, I mean, if you want to get that kind of running, sort of like just before the show sort of ends.
Actually, before we go too far down that road, can you start in 1 hour? Can you start in 1 hour?
Good point.
Yeah, because we have right now we want to tell people to go to our Echoes show. Well, actually, I guess that's for Echoes player, but there are people who play both. But,
yeah. Well, I after I logged off this, I was planning on going to stream missions because it's
okay. Go ahead.
Stream day anyways, so.
All right. Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, we won't interrupt your schedule. We'll turn people over to your schedule. If people want to see Eve Echoes, they can go to Talking in Stations YouTube. And just want to say thanks very much, Hateless. Great information. I think we need to actually do a series where we break it down a lot slower and more thorough for newer players. These are advanced players. So
that being said, mission running, like not for income, but mission running for fun, is super easy to get into. The basic ship to run is like 200 million. It costs nothing. You have not really a whole lot to lose to try it out. Hop in and try. The best way to get started is to jump in. And I know I say that like the high income is more advanced, but the low end of the spectrum where you're just kind of starting is super easy to get into, and you'll grow into that high income as your knowledge increases and stuff. So
Wow, that's 200 million to me was a giant price tag. I remember when I first got into Eve, I was playing for a week and I said, is this true or is this a typo that a skill is worth 4 million? I think it was an
Yeah.
accounting
Right.
skill.
Yeah.
yeah, the skills are all over the place in Eve.
It took me so long to get 3 million for an omen when I started.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much, Hateless. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Also,
Call me.
Yeah.
We'll kill triangles.
Okay, awesome.
I want to join you guys.
Yeah.
And
Come on. We go save sun. We go save suns together. All right.
save some suns. I love that. All right. Thanks very much, everyone, for hanging out with us for Talking in Stations. We're now going to go. If you want to watch Hateless, again, that's Hateless Gaming on Twitch. We'll actually, if you want to start firing it up, we'll actually raid you if you'd like.
Awesome. That's did you wanted to raid your Talking Stations for that? I don't want to take away.
No, we can't raid YouTube, and I don't want to mess up your schedule. So fire up your stream, and we'll raid you in just a second.
Awesome.
But we do want to plug our offerings for Eve Echoes right now on YouTube. If you want to check it out, that's youtube.com/talkinginstations. If you're into Echoes, check out that channel right now. And if you want to stick around, we'll move you over to Hateless, where you can see some of the stuff demonstrated that he talked about today. While we wait for him,
that story about the fob.
Oh wait, we'll get to the fob. And Dexter, tell us the fob.
Tell the fob story.
So we had there were some world news articles written that said like a few planets and places were bombed by Blood Raiders via a fob that they were staging, and then somebody that we knew noticed that there was a fob in the system that they were born in, and CCP Delegate Zero was targeting some of the role players who had like backstories written out, and like so we wanted to go kill the fob so his home planet wasn't bombed, but his character was born in Mishi, which is that high-sec island in Aridia in the middle of nowhere. So Oof. I had to move like a battleship fleet through several different wormhole chains as they collapsed to get the whole battleship fleet over to Aridia, to that island in Aridia, and that was just such a stupid it's like the worst thing I've ever done logistically, just to kill a fob in the middle of nowhere because we were scared about a world news article.
That does sound a bit ridiculous.
I actually just the other day went over to Aridia, packaged all that stuff up, and contracted it to Push to deal with to get it back.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right. I want to thank everybody for showing up today. Artemis, Caleb, Baleful, Elise Headliner, McLeod, and myself. And especially Hateless for giving us an hour of pure Q&A and a little bit of basics and stuff. We may actually unfold that into something that's a lot more manageable by newer players, but you advanced players wanted to know, how much can I earn? How can I get to it right away? And I think we covered that. But if you want to see more stuff, we're going to send you over to Hateless in just a second so you can see all the stuff demonstrated. And please subscribe and support his efforts because the guy is a scientist and he puts out his information to all the people. So that's good.
Sure.
All right. And if you're into Eve Echoes, check out Eve Echoes right now on youtube.com/talkinginstations. You will see Who is a Fish, our Echoes evangelist, talking with some people about Eve Echoes. It's good stuff.
Okay.
All right. So thanks, everyone. We will see you next time. That's all for this week on Talking in Stations.